Welcome to the Rachele and Cassandra show. Before we begin, our disclaimer. Rachele and Cassandra aren't attorneys or financial advisors. They are, however, licensed in their respective professions.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Oh, we're both going to talk at the same time today. Awesome. You go, Rachele. You.
Oh, I love talking together. I love talking over you.
Then I'll start and you just.
And I got to tell you. Yeah.
What did
just
you
like
need to
that.
tell me? Yes.
I'm sure this is super annoying. Well, here we are this week to talk about I want to say the topic du jour, but it's been the topic du jour for the last 3 years at least. It just keeps getting tighter. What?
Nothing. Go ahead.
Yes.
What's the topic du jour?
Well, topic du jour is desperation in the marketplace. And we're going to trudge through some things so last episode, we talked about getting your house ready to list. Lovely. Now we're putting on our buyer hats. And the freshest thing that happens when you start looking for a house is you might get discouraged really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
Because there's no homes. You're excited. You're ready to buy. You got the money. Even if you do find the house that ticks the boxes, there's a pretty good chance it ticks other people's boxes too.
That's right. It's like the sexy guy at the bar. Everybody thinks he's hot.
Right.
The house is the sexy guy at the bar.
The house, unfortunately, just can't have sex with everybody, unlike the guy at the bar.
Oh, that's a rabbit trail that we could really go down right now. But let's not.
Not today, Satan.
Not today. I knew you were going to say that. Okay. So specifically, I guess this conversation comes up. Where do I want to go? I keep looking at my computer because I have the notes from the conversation we had on Wednesday, which everybody on Wednesday, Cassandra and I get together and kind of dial in our topic for recording on Friday.
We show prep.
Yes,
which
air
means
quotes.
Doing an hour-long Zoom while we talk about everything like our family, our kids, deals, problems, what our setup is like, trips we've taken, clothes that are weird, shoes, work chairs that are making us uncomfortable.
Oh, the work chairs. God, we should do a review of work chairs.
For real.
You guys, this is a rabbit trail. It's probably inappropriate, but I bought this $1,000 yoga crisscross applesauce specially made chair. Oh, it was horrible. And I have returned it and got my money back. And then I bought a $200 chair, which is equally as horrible. And I can't return it. So I got a chair problem. But it's nothing compared to buyer's house problems. Let's bring it home.
Yes. So
you want to start with pre-foreclosure inventory on Zillow? That's one of my favorites.
Yes. So I have loads of data.
Love it.
What you'll see when you're looking for a house, some of the listings are not real on Zillow.
Buyers are so desperate to find new inventory that you really start looking in crazy places and thinking you found something that just wasn't showing up in all the regular places. And it's really unlikely. And Zillow foreclosure inventory, pre-foreclosure inventory is one of those places.
Yes. So without getting, if I may, without getting into the foreclosure process and the timelines and the legal requirements.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go into that. I will tell you that they've been talking about foreclosures since the moratorium started mid-COVID. Oh, there's going to be loads of foreclosures. And you and I have had this conversation.
Well, and
it's not. No, it's not.
Yeah, and people are holding their breaths, waiting almost with like excited anticipation because they think, your regular buyers and sellers think that they're going to be ready for this opportunity because they saw the people who had cash to buy houses back when they were losing their house. And they feel like, well, this time I'm going to be prepared. And it's funny because they will look at interest rates at like floating at 3.5%, say right now, and say, well, I'll be ready because my credit's good and I'll buy these foreclosures and I'll get a mortgage, like presuming that everything else right now will stay the same and there will just be this glut of available foreclosure inventory. And it's just not how it works.
Well, I will correct. That's not how it works. And it's not trending in that. So the data, so let me get in with my
Yes.
data.
Do
So
it.
real data, today's February 4th is the day that we're recording this, Friday. So it'll go live next week, but I don't think they're going to
2022.
change much. Yeah. So in Michigan, as of December, the end of December, in December, there were 414 foreclosures filed. That means that 414 houses in the entire state had foreclosure filings. That
And
puts
who
it
does
at
the filing?
the lender. It means I've told you I'm not getting into how the
I know.
process works,
But is it the
basically
beginning of the process or the process is
beginning.
done?
It's the
Aha.
beginning. It's the beginning of the
Yes.
process, which takes at least 6 months to finish.
And doesn't
6 months.
and doesn't necessarily result in an actual foreclosure or
No.
inventory becoming available. So
Well,
just
and
know that. Go ahead.
I was going to give numbers. So there were 414 in December that were filed. Today is February. There are currently approximately 57 that I can find, actual bank-owned homes that are listed in the state of Michigan. So I've got a less than 10% carryover rate, roughly.
Yes. So we're going to put in the show notes some of the links where you could, if you were so inclined to go hunting for available foreclosures,
Actual,
you could
true,
go
real ones
on the market.
from the
Yes.
banks that own them. And that's the
Like-
best place to find a foreclosure.
Absolutely. And these are foreclosures that are the foreclosure process has been completed and these houses are now available for purchase. So the end of the process is when they become available.
Right.
Um,
For
and
real.
those-
Which means
and-
these ones started probably a year ago.
Yes, maybe 6 months. I mean, that points
pretty
toward the
fast.
weeds. We're not going there today.
Yeah.
So can I take a moment? I happen to have the links in front of me, and I'm curious one of the links is Home Path Fannie Mae. What the heck does that mean?
Home
see
Path.
yeah.
Home Path is, so there's Fannie Mae, which if you don't know what Fannie Mae is, it is one of the conventional, it's a government sponsored enterprise, but they essentially are the largest backer of conventional loans, right? They purchase and securitize and guarantee to a certain degree conventional loans. So when you say conventional, you're talking about Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. They're not the same, but Home Path is Fannie Mae's foreclosure division.
Okay, so that's all that means. Home Path
Yep.
is all the properties that get turned over to the lender and subsequently turned over from the lender to Fannie Mae.
Mm-hmm.
They now own it. They're on title. They can do what they want with it. They send it to their Home Path division.
Yes, and their Home Path division, if you care to know, all of the Home Path homes, in addition to the Freddie Mac homes, which are, we'll talk about that, home steps.
Yep.
Those are all in turnkey condition. They take great pride in making sure the person who owns the house does not have to do any repairs. They do all of the repairs and it's ready to go. You could use another conventional loan to purchase it if you wanted.
By that, do you mean just making sure that it would pass a satisfactory appraisal? Like if the house didn't have a furnace, they're going to put a furnace in?
Yes, generally speaking, that's how Fannie and Freddie have historically taken care of their properties. They make sure if they get a dump, they send a team in to fix the dump. They
Yeah.
don't sell it as dump. Needs repairs. Cute, elbow grease. Whatever.
Fixer upper, opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. No, wait, what do you call that? There's a word I'm looking for. All right, so let's go to Home Steps. Is Home Steps then Freddie Mac's foreclosure division?
Yes. And so they have their own foreclosure division. So when somebody gets a house, if they want a conventional mortgage, just so you know, I can pick Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. And I generally pick Freddie Mac, to be honest.
Why?
Because they require 1 month of bank statements and less documentation than Fannie Mae.
Are these entities related to each other at all?
They are not. Most people think of them as the same, but they're two separate entities.
Why are they named like people? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They sound like brother and sister with
There's
annoying
desktop
parents.
underwriter, loan prospector. I don't know why the names are what they are. They used to be singular entities. And then in the crash, the government came in and supported them so they didn't go out of business. So now they're government sponsored enterprises. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac had to pay back the government.
Yep.
And they did a long time ago. And the government is just
a different
taking
episode.
the money.
I can
just
feel
saying.
this.
I don't know why
bubbling
they're
over.
named that. I don't know why they're
All
named
right.
that. I'll just answer.
We're going to do a Fannie and Freddie episode, and we're going to do a foreclosure process episode. And the word I was thinking of earlier is sweat equity.
Oh, yeah.
And now we
Sweat
can
equity.
go forward.
Okay. So there's Fannie Mae homes. Those are Home Path. You can find them. There's Freddie Mac listed homes, which is called Home Steps. And in both of these and the FHA one, which we haven't talked about, they do have a carve out. They really want people who are going to live in the house to be the ones who purchase it. So they actually, once it goes on the market, they have a set aside time. It's usually called like the first look time.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is for owner occupants only. I couldn't buy it as a second home. I couldn't buy it as an investment property. I could make an offer, but they're not even going to look at it. They're going to look at people who are going to make it their primary home first.
So I am on this Home Path Fannie Mae website searching for houses.
Okay.
And I'm trying to look just in Michigan. It's not letting me do that.
So type in Michigan, you have to zoom into the map, and then in your listing type, you want to check the Home Path listings only.
Listing type. Home. Oh, I see. It's giving me all houses for sale because it's got an IDX feed from the MLS.
Yes.
Interesting.
Good place to look for homes for sale.
It looks like I'm getting, some Wisconsin, Illinois.
So zoom in. Fannie Mae is the only one where you can't get just the state. You basically have to kind of zoom in to the state only. So if you go just to the west of Lake Michigan, you might get a couple over by Buffalo.
Yep. So I'm going to approximate this. I've got 30 plus, I'm doing Michigan in 2 segments for the Lower Peninsula, 34.
I'm coming up with 33 roughly.
36. So approximately, some of these are under contract. So not a whole lot of inventory in the state for Fannie. So now let's go to the home steps.
It's got to be so boring for people.
It's got to be. You know what? Our point, so there are 14 results. So the point is, if you're waiting around to buy this foreclosure inventory, you might be deluding yourself, and it's not likely to happen. And if it does, mortgage rates will probably, not just rates and qualification requirements might prohibit you from borrowing the money. We like to call it borrowing, but you're really buying it.
Right. And we talked about the interest for every 1% it going up, your qualification dropping and things like that, and the monthly payment increases. That was a few episodes ago. But we really wanted to do this episode to talk about foreclosure inventory, what the numbers actually look like, and to talk really to put shine a spotlight on the garbage that is pre-foreclosure inventory, because that don't mean fucking nothing.
Nope. It doesn't. Yeah. It's literally a document's been filed. It's publicly available. So it is false inventory, really. But in desperation, healthy real estate market, the accepted language, the expectation is that there's approximately 6 months of inventory in a healthy market. And we have been running sometimes under 1 month of inventory. So out of desperation, buyers just start looking in crazy places. So the real places where you're going to find properties for sale are on the MLS, which feeds to Zillow, actively for sale properties, and Realtor.com. It's the same fucking inventory. And like there's, Hot Homes and there's
Redfin. Probably.
Any real estate website. Like if you go to Keller Williams website, your real estate agent probably has a self-branded website, century21.com. I don't care what flag it's under, EXP, whatever. It's all the same inventory coming from the same fucking place. It is from the MLS. And then on Zillow or your Facebook marketplace, and I'm going to say Craigslist, even though that feels very scammy, Maybe people still list their properties for sale there. You're going to be able to find some for sale by owner inventory.
There's
And
also
it's
a for
real
sale by
inventory.
owner.com website. And most people
Yes.
nowadays, if they're doing it for sale by owner, do cross listed on Zillow, because you can
Yes.
do that as a homeowner.
Absolutely. So there are direct entry portals. Many for sale by owners will also put their for sale by owner into the MLS. There are brokerages that will charge a fee to just input the data, and you can, but that's where the real inventory is. There's no secret fucking inventory that you're going to find. There's always an outlier. There's always one freaking outlier. But Cassandra's like making but
What?
wait.
But
face.
wait, there's more.
Yes.
Rachel, tell me what a pocket listing is.
Oh man, I don't love this. It's a thing that I hear people do. That would be where a real estate agent knows of a property for sale, but it's not marketed or listed, and they can directly connect a buyer and a seller without putting the property on the open market.
So, but the realtor can put it on the market and take it off for like an hour, right? Or literally put it on in pending if the transaction goes through, so that their numbers are better.
Usually I think, well, and appraisers like that we do that because then they can see the record of the sale. So what that looks like would be if, let's imagine I talk to my neighbor, Frank and Amy, they're wonderful, and they tell me that they are thinking about moving. And I happen to know that Cassandra wants to live right next door to me. I mean, duh.
Duh.
So I call her up and I say, hey, my neighbors might want to sell, and we coordinate a deal. And that deal goes through. I may go into the MLS that after it's closed, put it on active, pending, sold, all in the same day, just so that the record is out there, and it will help me win a false award.
Right. And
or a legitimate award.
And so pocket listings, when a realtor does this, I could do this. So actually what I actually did this. The neighbor had a for sale sign in front of their house. Yes. Tiny little one. Like I thought they were having a garage sale or something.
This is not a pocket listing.
This is not, because I'm not a realtor. And I literally called my friend and said, hey, this house is for sale. And she purchased it.
Yes.
But it's not a pocket listing because I'm not a realtor.
It still wouldn't have been. If my neighbor put a for sale sign in front of their house and I'm a realtor and I call you and tell you about it, it's not a pocket listing. A pocket listing is, in my opinion, in this market. So everything about real estate is very contextual. And there may be a scenario where I am doing right by my client by not putting their property on the open market. But in the current environment, if I have a property that I know my client wants to sell, I feel like I would be doing them a gigantic disservice by not putting it on the MLS, unless they specifically, knowingly, and with eyes wide open don't want that. And there's always but you're wrong, Rachel. What if this weird situation is happening? In that case, isn't that the right thing to do? Well, fucking yes. Context. But pocket listings in this market, I think, are questionable.
There's a bit of dirt on those. It's a bit of questionable.
Well, in this environment, though, imagine. So if you hire me to sell you, and this is so off topic, but I guess related. If you hire me to sell your house for the best possible terms, and people hear most money, it's not always the case. Now let's imagine a really fucking radical situation. You hire me to sell your house. I happen to know that you have 2 broken legs and a quadriplegic child that you can't move, and the house is not going to show well because you have 16 cats and they all shit in the house. On paper, your house is a $575,000 house, and I know damn well we're not going to get that price. Now, there's a little bit of, we would never know because we didn't put it on the market, but you agree with me. You're like, you're right. We've been in the competition. It's all pristine. It's got granite countertops. Your countertops are plywood. There's just everything wrong. Yeah, plywood countertop house. Uh-huh.
Hell of a house you're drawing. Jeez,
I know,
guys.
But it's always the outliers that people get wrapped around the axle about what if this weird thing happens and I find you a buyer. Someone randomly calls me and says, hey, Rachel, I live in Beijing. I've never been to Michigan, but I really want to live there. I have cash and I'm flush with money. I'm looking for a house that I can fix up in the perfect location. and my budget is $600,000. I'm going to tell them about your $575,000 on paper house that's really on the open market only going to sell for $420 because it's so gross. Because my job is to work for you. That is a scenario where it might make sense to do a pocket listing.
Okay, that makes sense.
You feel me?
Hold it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if no, I get it.
Because the alternative is you got to do something with the cats. You got to clean up the cat shit. You should put in real countertops. If you want that 575, is that what I said? 575 sale price, you have to get your property in the condition to be worth that money. Now, alternate scenario, and I just went through this. I had a client come to me to list a property that I wanted to buy, and I ran the numbers, and they came in inside of my budget and below what she wanted. But I know the market keeps going up and doing crazy shit. I also know I'm looking backwards for my comps. I have to. And that it's a very nebulous gap between what the comps say and what the market right now is going to pay, especially in her price range. I wanted to buy this property. It would have been perfect and checked a lot of boxes for my overarching goals. And I told her, I would like to buy the property for this price. However, you may be able to get significantly more by going on the open market. All I can offer you is removing the hassle of having to show it and inspections and all of that stuff. I don't know if that's worth the potential loss of this X amount of money. And thank God she didn't sell it to me because she got more than she even wanted.
Oh.
The value was astronomical. And due in part because of the price range that she was in and the severe lack of inventory. We had multiple offers well over what I was able to pay. Now I know there are realtors out there who may push their own agenda in that scenario on the client and not advise them properly about going on the, and I told her, we go on the market. If you don't get what you think you need, my offer's still here. It's not going anywhere. I'm not trying to take advantage of my client.
Right. That'll come back to bite you in the ass.
I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
That's a karmic move. So pocket listings, though there are, but you know what? If you're a buyer, I would say work with an agent. And if they have one and it works for you, I mean, it's a desperate move in some situations. I don't know. I feel like this pocket listing conversation is a minefield, really.
I just wondered because we're talking about foreclosures, right? And available homes and people going to desperate measures. So staying with our theme are kind of atypical ways things are done. I haven't seen a foreclosed home being purchased, like a bank-owned home under contract, hit my desk in 7 years. I mean, years. It's been a very long time.
And let me answer a quick question that I get a lot from people home buying, especially first time out the gate and in this brutal market. People often ask, how do you buy a foreclosed home? The answer is exactly the same way you buy a privately owned home. It's freaking identical. You have to have your proofs for your mortgage. There may be some additional paperwork depending on how the sale is being run by the owner, but banks, lending institutions advertise their properties in conventional ways because they too want to sell the house for the best possible terms. So the way to do that is in this market, the way to do that is to get your property in front of the most qualified buyers who actually want the home.
Oh,
and have the ability to buy it.
There's something that we have not talked about. Auction homes. Do you want to talk about auction homes?
No. I fucking hate that world. I hate that whole environment. Xome, Xome, Xome Homes, and there's another one. Who's the other big one?
I don't remember. Auction, is it auction.com? I
have remember. Registered with so many of these.
So
yeah, and you know what? Let's talk about that, and let's talk about tax foreclosures, because that's another one. And I have a good story to tell about of tax foreclosure. Okay. So I found the other one. It's Hubzu.
Oh, yeah.
The two, terrible names. Why do they have to go for the X and the Z in the title? Xome and Hubzu. Yeah, I Yes.
They're like meditation words or something.
They are. You know,
calm people down.
They are named like almost like pharmaceuticals. Weird combinations of letters.
Zeljan.
Yeah. What the heck? Why?
Just throw them into a scramble.
Yeah.
Random
Reach into
word
the Scrabble
generator.
bag.
Yeah, that's it.
Grab some letters, arrange them into something. I was telling Nash is my son, the other day that the thing I've learned from Pokemon is that new words can be made up like for infinity.
Yes.
Those creatures have some of the craziest names, and they just keep coming up with more of them. Anyway, unlike real estate inventory, which they can't seem to make fast enough.
Correct.
Let's talk about auctions.
I'm not going to sing. I was going to sing.
Sing. What do you got? Okay.
It was let's talk about, but I was like,
let's talk about auctions, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Let's talk about all the homes that aren't out on the market. That's not right. Anyway, go ahead.
No. Well, you actually brought up this topic. So I hate the auctions. I think they're also false inventory. A lot of times you have to jump through all of these hoops to put in your bid on this auction website. And I have never had a client win one ever. I heard a story one time about a friend of a friend who entered an auction for a house that they had initially tried to buy when it was not for auction. They lost the bid. Like 9 months later, it's on this auction website. They put in the same offer and they won. That's the only winning story I've ever heard for any of these auction websites.
I've had one.
What about you? Really?
I've had one person won an auction. I can't tell you the massive pain in the ass, how horrible the terms were for the buyer.
Yes, they have to pay so many fees. It's like you're paying
non-refundable earnest money deposits. They will not turn on the utilities. You are literally
good luck doing an appraisal.
The reason
you have to turn them on.
buys these is because most of them are purchased by investors for cash. And that's why mortgages, that's why I rarely see them trickle through. That's why you rarely see them trickle through. Most investors have their real estate license so they can get paid on crap, right?
Yeah, they're doing this for their job. This is not like a deal that you stumbled onto in a, I don't know, thrift shop. I got the music in my head right now.
Me too, totally. So anyway, auctions are real, but really
they may not be real for you.
They're not real for most people unless you are an investor flush with cash, because those are usually the people that buy it for less and they throw some spackle on that shit and sell it at a hefty profit. Yeah.
Thick paint. You know what? And here's the thing. Auctions may be for you, but you are going to pay one way or another. You're either going to pay by having to part with a giant chunk of cash in order to buy the property, or you're going to pay by doing all the chasing down in work and anxiety of bidding on these properties. And let me tell you, it's on you to go drive. Sometimes these auctions will say, do not disturb tenant, don't go near the property. Yes. You can't look at it beforehand. So you're basically buying
a squatter
with a potential huge amount of risk. Yeah, fucking squatter who won't leave, and it becomes your problem. You're in exchange for this great price, you are inheriting. You're going in blind and possibly inheriting huge problems.
Sometimes you can't even see inside the home.
Yep.
On the auction. So you got to pay a giant. Anyway, for the vast majority of people, which we always say there's outliers, for the vast majority of people, the auction homes, as they are currently structured, really are not a real
inventory.
Thing. Right. It's not real inventory. Just like the pre-foreclosures means a piece of paper has been filed, but we just talked about how that translates to a less than 10% pull through on an actual foreclosure.
And the additional layer of falsehood on the pre-foreclosure inventory is if I owe $200,000 on my house and it's worth $475,000, what you're going to see is pre-foreclosure, $200,000. And in your buyer mind, because you're on Zillow shopping for houses, is this house is going to be $200,000. That's not true. It's probably still going to go for $475,000. You're just buying it from the bank and not from a person.
Well, and we've had this conversation multiple times about people. If you're and I'll say it again if you're in the middle of a foreclosure or foreclosure was just filed on your house, please
Call a realtor.
List your house for sale, sell it.
Make the money.
If you can't redeem it and get it out of foreclosure, say you're not working, say just shit hit the fan and you just
don't want it anymore.
You don't want it, right? List the house, sell it, take the profit, because there will be profit, and go rent a place and take the proceeds and pay rent for 5 years or something.
Yeah. I mean, take your $30,000, $50,000, $150,000 that you'll make. You will not have a foreclosure on your
record.
On your credit report.
Right. You just sold it. You'll have like a bunch of late payments. Big deal.
And if you're not sure, call me, call a realtor, call somebody who can look at your house and give you a realistic idea of what you'd walk from. Worst case scenario.
Or call a loan officer, call a bank and be like, hey, do you have if you don't know a realtor, I'm shocked if you don't, just say, hey, we
are
have
a dime a dozen
too. Well, not really, but like.
What we are. Good ones are not.
Good ones are not, for sure. But at least call. So like the foreclosures are way less. So this is different. I just do want to point out this is different than 2008 when literally it was a house of cards falling and all of these homes were listed. The banks couldn't even sell them.
They did not have the infrastructure to deal with this glut of inventory. They learned how to do it and do it well by having to do it.
They literally were thrown into the deep end, and you blame the banks, but it wasn't the banks, and it wasn't people who do my job. They lent according to the guidelines at the time.
Yeah. And this is not the place for the finger pointing or trying to unpack how or why it happened, other than to say, we also didn't have this gigantic influx of first-time home buyers who have been hitting the market for the past 2 years. There's 3 or 4 more years of this entire humongous population coming in who needs houses. So even if there was a huge uptick in foreclosures, there are shit tons of people lined up ready and willing and able to buy them. So your plan, if that's your plan, is you might be waiting for decades before you can buy that smoking hot foreclosure deal.
Yeah.
Right?
And back in 2008, we didn't have the Fundrise, and then where do you Blackstone? We didn't have those big things competing like exactly. They would buy homes maybe in high population areas or in resort areas, but now they're just like
buying homes because people need places to live and they can't freaking get them. So somebody's gonna, and you say this often, the bank's going to get their money. The other side of that is, as a buyer, you're going to pay one way or the other. Mm-hmm. So the gigantic amounts of anxiety, just to bring this back to desperate measures, the gigantic amounts of anxiety you're going to inflict upon your soul by trying to uncover that one hidden property, you're going to pay one way or another.
And it probably doesn't exist. And if it does exist, you're probably not going to get it anyway. So I would suggest people stop trying or waiting for a foreclosure.
Well, people I heard that my neighbor's sister's friend might be selling their house. Can you call them and see if we can get in to look? That's so backwards. I mean, yes, of course. But if you're that interested, they're not likely to just sell it to you unless you're willing to make it worth their while to not go on the market and see who else wants it as bad or worse than you. And the likelihood that it is going to be the one is astronomically small. I almost said incrementally, and that's not right. But the three circles, what you mean. Right?
Yeah. Well, I would say, we're probably desperation. We're probably a couple months away from the level of desperation of people printing out a love letter to sellers and literally walking neighborhoods and tagging people's homes.
I door knocked neighborhoods last summer.
Not you. I mean buyers.
Hear me out. And the houses I went to the people I talked to were like, oh, are you the ones who left the letter on our mailbox yesterday? And we saw that somebody gave us a copy of a letter from home buyers talking about how they wanted to move into this neighborhood and their kids and all this. So it's already been happening.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like actual home buyers writing letters to entire neighborhoods saying, I want to live here. I kind of don't care about the condition of the house. Will you please consider selling to me directly? And go ahead. I had something
I was
else.
going to say, in our neighborhood Facebook group, there are people who post, hey, my friend wants to buy a house, 3-bed, 2-bath for under, $500,000. If anybody's thinking of selling, could you please send me a message before you list? Or
I have an investor real estate group that I'm in. And somebody came in and said, I wish I had it at the ready. It was basically, I have a buyer who is looking for a house it was like Novi for $250,000, minimum 3-bed, 2-bath, basement, whatever it said. They've been through multiple real estate agents. They're just coming to me for help. I'm just delivering the message, like posting, like saying, hey, can anybody help with this poor buyer? And the comments is all, sounds like your client needs to look somewhere else or find some more money. That doesn't exist. That description of that property for that money.
I know that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. You can't have that. No. That's like saying I'm on the hunt for a gallon of milk for 47 cents or less. Well, fucking, you're going to be looking for a long time.
Why can't somebody find me the gallon of milk for 47 cents? Because you don't work on a fucking dairy farm and you're paying for just the glass bottle with free milk.
I don't know. I don't know how that works. And we're getting like a little bit worked up, but I got to tell a story.
Okay, go ahead.
No, you go. You had a client who?
It was very similar. I had a client who was like, this is my purchase price and I'd like to be in Novi. And I said, okay, I'm just going to tell you that you're going to have to increase your purchase price if you want to be in Novi. You're probably going to have to be further out. Think Redford and I started naming some cities where I know homes are in that price point. And he goes,
yes.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And I was like, I mean, you can still look in Novi, but like it doesn't exist. What you want doesn't exist. Yeah. I would like a house for under $100,000 in my neighborhood.
Good luck. No, I would like a money tree in my backyard.
Well, sure.
And a unicorn. Okay. Anyway, yeah. It's frustrating because you know what? I think buyer expectations lagged the actual market. So maybe you started on your thinking about buying a house home journey a year ago, and there might have been a handful of houses around $250,000 that did it for you. And you're remembering seeing the one you wanted sell. So you've got this imprint in your brain of a $250,000 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in this area. That was then, and it doesn't exist now.
So I look at real estate all over the country for fun.
Me too.
Whatever. So yes. I have an indelible image of a $180,000 original 70s funky ranch that I was really interested in Austin, Texas. I can only imagine it's worth about $800,000, if not more. And because that was, 7 years ago.
I've been thinking about buying a cabin up north, right? Because that's what we Michiganders do for probably 4 years. And when I started looking, what I wanted was $40,000 or $50,000. Now it's like $180,000. And I'm like, even I'm susceptible. Like I look at this and I'm like, well, shit, I could have got that 4 years ago for $40,000. Well, you didn't. So you can't now.
Yep, exactly.
So said I was going to tell the story. So I'm just going to barf it out really quick about a client who bought, because we didn't talk about tax foreclosures. So if your taxes, short version, your taxes go in arrears for 2 consecutive years, that rhymes. It could be a poem. Nothing rhymes with poem. The state takes it back. And you can buy those properties and the rule is the state can only sell them for the taxes that are owed. So they're not getting on the open market. There are tax websites, certain times a year you can buy them. I would caution you, because you are still competing. The state's still going to take the highest dollar amount, but if nobody else is bidding on it, you can get it for just what the prior owner didn't pay. I have a client who does this. And he picks up turds, and one of the turds that he bought, he called me to sell it, and on paper it had value. And he got it. It was just a vacant lot, and it was
just land.
Yes, and he got it for I'm going to make up some numbers that are in the ballpark because I don't remember. He paid like $1,500 for this thing. It was in a lake neighborhood. It was a bigger than usual lot next to some green space. So all the aerial views, I'm like,
Okay.
shit, there are two competing vacant lots similar to yours without lake views. And they've been sitting on the market for a while at like $30,000 and $45,000. I said, if you list this alongside those for $30,000 to $40,000 with your lake view, those dumb listings are going to help sell you. And it's a great property. Well, there's always a reason somebody didn't pay their taxes, and it might not be because they couldn't afford it. I go down to look at this property with my eyeballs because all of the paper, it was like in the right spot, all the things.
Sure.
Land gets weird. This property did not have a road. And I've run into this in northern Michigan properties too. A platted sub on paper that somebody submitted and filed does not mean that you actually have access to the property, even if there's a road easement. So this property was on paper had access through a road that never got built. There was another road right next to where the road that was supposed to have been built was built. So you've got, if you're watching, I'm trying to show you with my hands. You've got road number 1 is on paper only, doesn't exist. Road number 2 is right next to it and actually exists. Both roads are on paper. So you go out there and you think, well, I'll just take road number 2 and drive over to the property. And you can't, because road number 1 is in subdivision phase 1 and road number 2 is in separate subdivision phase 2. And they don't share because phase 2 is lakefront people and they really don't like the non-lake frontage people. They got their own rules. They got their own association. There was literally no way to access this property. My client's smoke and deal was a landlocked, unbuildable piece of property that the other guy didn't pay taxes on because he probably made the same mistake. Because if you look at the title chain, you can see that it kept going back to the state. Somebody buys it online. It's like a moneymaker. The state just keeps selling the same fucking turd of property because you can't do anything with it. And it was in a floodplain, so you really can't build on it anyway without a lot of fuckery. Sorry. It was just dig.
I was literally going to say, in all of 2021, in your entire county, all of last year, the state auctioned one piece of land. It was land only, and it's landlocked in Pinckney.
Yeah.
One. In my county, Kalamazoo, which has a higher population, they auctioned 4 pieces of property, 3 of which were land. One was
just making a face, you guys. Like sketchy.
Yeah, so there's not much. Usually it's landlocked stuff. So drive through, get an aerial perspective. You're right. There's usually not a reason. And I will say, if the person had a mortgage on it, right? So say you have a mortgage, you have an escrow account, the mortgage company is going to pay the taxes so the state can't take it if they have to.
Yeah.
Because they have interest in it above and beyond the state.
And I'm going to throw this in here too, since we're talking about false inventory. And I feel like this is common knowledge in the circles that we run in. But if you're a renter and you're listening to this, definitely be wary of rental listings that you come across. I had one of my listings, and it doesn't happen to me often, but one of my listings someone took and spoofed on realtor.com, which is a reputable source. One of my properties listed for sale, they listed it for rent. And there are scams out there where people will list a property that is not theirs and not actually for rent to get your $500 or whatever deposit. You send it with a Cash App.
Dogs welcome. $500 application fee.
Smokers allowed. Like really make it the unicorn of rentals, because pets are tough and non-smokers. Usually rental units are non-smoking.
Yeah.
Anyway, just dig. Just be careful and don't give anybody any money.
Drive by it. Just
go look at it. Yeah.
Go look at it. Drive by it. That would solve when you'd know if it was landlocked. You would know if it's actually listed, right? If it was a rental, you would know it was listed by somebody else. You can call the number posted out in front of it if you find it online. And then same thing for foreclosure. Drive by it. Does it look like it's foreclosed, or does it look like somebody's literally living there? You can knock on the door and ask them, which is kind of weird, or talk to the neighbors because they're super gossipy.
Yeah. Yeah. And just buckle up and be prepared to compete in the environment that you're actually buying in. That's the best advice I can give you. You may not love it. It may not match the story that you've been telling yourself for the last however many years leading up to you buying this house. But the market is whatever it is, and context is the most important thing, right? You get 3 circles. There are 3 circles. You get 2. Context is important. The answer is always, it depends. Those are your real estate goggles, folks.
Yeah, you're
Put
not
them
going
on
to get
before
that
you get
third
out there.
one by going for inventory that doesn't exist. Highly unlikely.
I think that's good. Do you have anything else?
I don't.
All right. Peace out, Girl Scout. I will see you next week.
See you, sis. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
The info given is current as of this recording, but remember, the market changes and real estate is hyper local.